To choose from. So I did tell my players when we got to that part, hey, I did tell my players, check, make sure when we got to that part, hey, I did tell my players, check, make sure when we got.
It's the same thing that happened last time, where I've got Twitch up and then it just goes into a feedback loop and goes nuts. So carry on.
Hey, at least it happened fast. That's good.
Yeah, we're good.
Hey, if there's anybody in the chat, if there's anybody in the stream watching us, make sure you say hey.
Yeah.
So that we can.
Make sure you can hear us.
So that we can say hey back.
Yep.
Exactly. It's like we got 7 people watching so far. That's good.
I'll say hey first.
Hello, hello. So tonight's topic is helping new DMs for get ready for the 4 greatest days in gaming, right?
Yes.
In-person Gen
In person.
Oh, yeah.
Mazinga couldn't hear us until a couple seconds ago, but we got her fixed, right?
Yep, we're good. We got everybody set.
It's okay, Greg.
It's Greg!
Greg Harris. Hello.
Nice. What's up, Greg? Should have known you'd have had a cool screen name like Mazinga. The Great Mazinga. Yeah.
All right, so what do you want to lead us off with, Troy?
Well, first off, I want to say hello and welcome to everybody for this is our 4th one, isn't it? Our 4th office hours.
It is.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Number 4, and I feel like this is a big one because we're getting back to in-person convention play, and we've got so many new DMs in the Heralds Guild with us because of the online virtual weekends and all the other events that we've been doing, and some of them want to see what it's like in the real world at Gen Con.
And a shout out to Daniel S. for suggesting this topic. Very cool idea. Very cool.
Daniel, idea. Daniel, thank you for this, for the suggestion. But yeah, Gen Con is a huge deal. So many this year will be different because of all the restrictions and stuff, but it's still a big event. So many people, thousands of your best friends, swarm on Indianapolis to have the best 4 days in gaming, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. Every one of us was a first-time convention DM. Every one of us walked into that game hall for the first time at Gen Con as a DM for Dave. That's where I got my start, was a Gen Con. That was the first time I'd ever ran at a convention. And it's an experience. But never fear. We're here to help.
Yes.
We've got some experience behind the table, behind the screen at the Gen Con, and we got some tips and tricks for you. So,
and see, I'll be the neophyte. I've been at conventions in person before. I played at Gen Con twice. I was there twice and was completely overwhelmed by it, even as a player. Mm-hmm. So I'll be very interested to hear what the scuttlebutt is about, like the back end of it and how that operates. Unfortunately, I won't be there this year, but maybe I can carry some of that over to Origins too. So I'll be the one I'll kind of probe. I'll give you guys some probing questions about the experience, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm just going to lead off with what is best about Gen Con. It is to crush your players, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their party members.
That is what's best in life. Mm-hmm.
That is what is best in life. With that horrible thing, I will let Mitch take it away.
Well, the first thing about Gen Con that you're gonna probably have questions about is getting your badge. First of all, make sure that you have a Gen Con account created, and Dave's getting to them. He was on vacation last week, and he's going to be putting everyone's badges in. It'll go through your email and such like that. Once your badge is in the system, then if you want to sign up for other games when you're not running, you can go to Gen Con then and try to pick up other events. But picking up your badge, usually the Wednesday of Gen Con. When you get to, if you've got enough slots to comp your hotel, you will check in. Check-in, I believe, is at the JW Marriott. I think check-in starts around 3 p.m.
Usually, I believe, yeah.
You will get an email a few weeks ahead of time with the judge primer that'll answer some of these questions we're going to be talking about tonight. I'll have a addendum with if you do have a comp room that'll have your confirmation number. It'll have your roommates and such like that on there. But picking up your badge will be that Wednesday night in the Griffin Hall, the second floor of the JW Marriott, which is the hotel where we're staying. So you can go upstairs, you come down, and boom, you're right there running your games. And then we'll have a DM check-in, and then after that, usually about 8 o'clock Eastern, we'll have a DM's meeting that will talk about a bunch of stuff and answer a lot of in-person questions.
Yeah, and those meetings, a lot of people will think, I don't need to go to the meetings. I know what's up. Everybody's going to be there this year because we haven't seen each other's faces for so long, and it's just it just kicks everything off. Even if it's the same information that we may have heard year after year at Gen Con, doesn't matter. Go to the meeting, get your fill of all of us in there getting ready, getting pumped up, ready to go. Get your shirts, get your badges, get some swag.
Get your t-shirts, yeah.
Yep, get ready to go. And, Dave will usually go over anything that might have changed, any new guidance for any of the modules if something new has popped up. If anybody has any questions about anything, any changes need to be made on your end, that's where to bring that up and just get it all out. And then afterwards, we'll all break apart and go grab dinner somewhere, maybe play some games to get ready for the kickoff.
Yeah, a lot of times people end up running a lot of slot zeros on Wednesday nights as well to make sure that they have the adventures and such. And speaking of the adventures and modules, those usually will ship out to you usually a week or two ahead of time. Do not bug Dave about them. You will get the modules.
Yeah, he knows that you want the modules.
He knows that you need them.
Yeah, when he gets them, you'll get them. And when everybody starts talking about them and you don't have one, then bug Dave.
Then bug Dave. Yeah. So
that's actually, if you don't mind, really, there's one. That's one thing to consider that I hadn't remembered about Gen Con is that the Wednesday nights there are no official games that are running. Everything is kind of like a preemptory warm up, but not no actual play. So no tickets. So at least that first night will be the quiet before the storm. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. And just to get any kind of horror stories out of the way, yes, there have been times that the modules don't get shipped out until the day before. Mm-hmm. That has happened in the past.
That's worst case scenario.
That's worst case scenario. Not saying it's going to happen this year or the next year or whatever, but if it does, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
we're going to get the modules. You've got all of us around. We are going to do round tables. We're going to do session zeros. We are going to get you prepped and ready to run at the table.
Yeah, we'll probably even get you in connected with somebody that has either run it before or maybe has some of the materials, some of the maps or something like that. And I'm sure they'll be happy. If it were me, I'd be happy to lend you the maps that I've already put together if I'm not running that session, right, and if you need it.
Yeah. Well, this usually happens if it's a premiere, so there's no previously existing stuff.
Well, then that even talks about or speaks to don't be surprised if you have an off cycle and you're asked to run a game that you are going to run cold.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. And another thing too about when you get the modules, make sure to print them out.
Yes,
this is very important to understand. You will not have access to power outlets for electronic devices at your table.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see them there.
You'll see them, but you're not allowed to use them. You should not be using them.
Nope, but do not plug it.
Charge your phones. Do not rely on having an iPad or a tablet or anything with the adventures on there. The players are going to come. Some players are not going to realize that they don't have any place to. They're going to bring digital devices and things like that. Make sure to even maybe print out extra character sheets, things of that nature to bring with you. But make sure you
Yeah.
have a printed copy of the adventure. Make sure that you have all of the books that you need to run your adventure. If you want to bring maps, bring maps. If you want to print out maps, bring your own maps. Make sure to bring some extra writing utensils. Sometimes players will show up at the table and they won't have a pen or a pencil, anything of that nature. Obviously, dice. It's been a while since a lot of people have gotten to roll actual real dice instead of virtual dice. And if you want to use miniatures, feel free. I always recommend the newer DMs that haven't been to convention. Go ahead and concentrate on your game. Make sure you run a good game. Yes, it's really great. You'll see a lot of DMs will come with a bunch of terrain and a bunch of miniatures and things of that nature. And sometimes that's what players will remember, but sometimes, most of the time, players will remember a really good session. And sometimes won't even remember if there was miniatures or terrain there. Obviously, I bring miniatures, I bring terrain. Troy even creates his own terrain and brings all of that as well.
Or maps, right? If like talked about it before, the 24 by 36 poster sized grid posters that you can get on spiral bound flip pads. Use those. You could draw your stuff out ahead of time. I highly recommend. This is not just a Gen Con thing. At any of the conventions you go to,
convention,
make sure your maps are drawn out before you get there.
Yes.
You can go on Amazon and they've got scroll cases and tubes that you can put things in so your stuff doesn't get crushed and crunched. Like $10 or less, cheaper, like little plastic ones. Draw them all out ahead of time. Roll them up. Slam them in there. And then that way, instead of, if you got like dry erase boards instead, or like a mat, it's messy. It takes time. It slows down the play. You want to kind of make sure that momentum is constantly going. Instead, it's just boom. Here comes the map. Here are your miniatures or your candy or whatever you want to use for the monsters, and you rock and roll. Keep going.
And go. Yep. Don't the time it takes you, because you don't think I can draw these rooms out real quick. Yeah, but every minute you take pulls your players out of the immersion.
Yeah. They start looking at their phones. They start looking around. They get distracted. Yeah.
And talking about minis, I make a lot of my own minis. I use paper minis a lot of times because it saves space. Whether they're paper, plastic, whatever you want to use, make sure you have them organized either by the room that they're in, by which adventure they're going to be used in, by the type of monster they are, and keep them organized all the way through the weekend. So that way when you're sitting there, in the front left of your little box, that's where my goblins are. You can reach down, put them out. When you're done, put them right back where they go. It will save you so much time. The faster you can do, and a lot of this advice is coming from the days where there was 4 slots per day. Each slot was only 4 hours long, and they ran back to back to back to back. So it was you have 3.5 hours to get your 4-hour module done, about 15 minutes to do your paperwork, and 15 minutes to clean up, pack up, and move to your next table if you have to move, or your next event or whatever it might be. So
that's a good thing to point out too, is that we have changed this year. We're supposed to be last year, but this year is going to be changed similar to the format we do for virtual D&D weekends, where there'll be a 9 a.m. slot, a 2 p.m. slot, and a 7 p.m. slot, except for on Sunday, which Sunday has an 8 a.m. slot and then a noon slot.
Right.
So
the slots are still really only 4 hours long, but we have an hour leeway between each slot. So keep that in mind. So yes, you run to the restroom, do some cleanup, grab a snack, whatever. I always say, pack light. Pack your DM kit light. Because depending on where you got to go, where you got to run to, you want to be as quick and fast as possible. So, and that goes along with drawing out your maps first, having your minis organized. Cut down on the extraneous stuff that you might like to have at the table, unless it's something that you really, really need. Like John, I know, likes to use a screen. So he's going to pack his screen.
Are we doing that? Are we?
No, I'm just saying that. That's
are you going to give me a hard time about the DM screen?
I use DM screen. I use DM screen.
Did I give you a hard time? No, I said you like to use
I was waiting for it. That's called shell shock. That's all that is. Just waiting for it. Right. Let me ask you this then. Okay, how about this? If you in your bag that you take to and from the hotel room, what do you carry in it? What's your kit?
Okay, the adventures that I'm going to run, if I can't go back to the room for a while, I take all the adventures I need, all the minis that I need, obviously. The maps that I'm going to use, extra pencils, extra dice, because some people come and they don't have their own dice, all the markers and whatever else that I might need, paper towel, and some extra plastic bags for trash, because we want to make sure we keep our play area as clean as possible. And players, they get excited to get to their next event. They will leave their soda bottles and their candy wrappers and whatever else laying around. So if you got a little Walmart bag or whatever, just put that in there, tie it off. When you see a trash can, chuck it in.
The other cool thing about the room too is that they have there's ice water all throughout the room as well. So bring a sports drink bottle or something like that. I'll get like Mio's or some powdered and stuff like that to flavor the water and stuff like that to have to keep hydrated, because it's very important to keep hydrated, because you're going to if you think you talk a lot on virtual D&D weekends, you're going to be probably not talking as much, but you're going to be talking louder, because the room, the noise of the room is. Sometimes you have to get up and speak a little bit louder for the players to be able to hear you.
And that will kill your voice fast. And on that note, get some throat lozenges.
Yes.
And then when you get throat lozenges, get some more throat lozenges. Because if you think you have enough, you don't.
Amen.
Get more, and start using them on the way to Gen Con. Keep your throat nice and lubricated and hydrated. Keep drinking that water. That way you're not going to, blow your vocal cords out by Friday night and have to suffer through the old lady. The old lady from Beetlejuice. You sound like her.
You may even get some of there are a couple of things you may not even consider. A, you might start getting the con credit early.
Yep.
Right. B, it's loud in there, and so you're gonna have to raise your voice. And it's not just the silly voices that you use or the graveliness that you throw into your voice that may end up messing with your throat a bit. You're gonna have to raise your voice in order to get above the din. So that's probably one of the most important pieces of kit. Honestly, is throat lozenges, or even if it's not throat lozenges, if you can't stand like a Halls or something like that, some kind of hard candy, to where you can just kind of keep everything nice and of the viscosity going in your throat, nice and lubricated, like Troy said.
Something else too about Gen Con this year to keep in mind is if you've been vaccinated, make sure to bring your proof of vaccination, your vaccination card, because there are going to be health safety stations throughout there. You present your vaccine card, they will give you a wristband. This information is all up on the Gen Con website. If you for some reason you actually do have a health reason why you can't be vaccinated, or why you can't wear a mask, make sure to bring that documentation, take it to the health and safety station, and they will give you a wristband for that as well. But definitely bring some masks just in case. They're not requiring them, but if you have not been vaccinated and you do not have proof of reason why you have not, they are going to require you to wear a mask. So even if you have been vaccinated, just bring some just in case, especially if you don't have your vaccination card. Definitely bring that if you do have that.
Yeah. Just be prepared with everything. One of the staples of every Gen Con, every Gen Con Origins and Winter Fantasy, is one of our favorite people. That's Les.
Les Foster,
Les.
And I'm going to let Mitch take this one, but he has his Lesisms, and this is his number one, and it's one that I encourage everyone to take to heart. please take this one to heart. Mitch?
6, 2, 1. That means at least get 6 hours of sleep, at least 2 good meals a day, and 1 shower.
Oh my god!
Make sure you shower every day. There's the game room has a lot of players in there, and a lot of the players may not have the best hygiene, and that room will. It is also a little chilly as well, but that room will start to get a little bit of a smell, and we don't want that smell coming from our DMs.
Yeah,
So 6 hours, at least 6 hours of sleep, at least 2 good meals, and at least 1 shower per day.
And if I recall, if I recall, the actual room itself is a lot smaller and more like condensed. It's not like a ballroom, right?
No, it's huge.
It's huge.
I know that's big.
Huge.
I'm thinking like, is it? But the ceilings are lower.
The ceilings.
That's what I'm getting at.
The room is amazing. It's a lower ceilinged room. It's a lot better sound wise than a lot of the rooms that we've had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a great room, and we want to keep it great. We want to make sure that the JW wants us to keep it.
Did they move it last year? Maybe I'm thinking of like a 2018. It's the same one, right?
I think it's 2000. Yeah, same one.
Okay.
Yeah, the less of the 6-2-1 rule. The 6 and the 2, you're gonna thank us for. The 1, we're gonna thank you for.
Yes, exactly.
So definitely. Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say something else too. So you're used to mustering online. You're used to checking in for your game, where it says all slot discussion, game check, slot 1 check-in, slot 2 check-in, slot 1 game on, slot 2 game on, such like that. For checking in at Gen Con, they are going to have marshals. And they're going to have marshal areas, especially if you're not running a DDXP track. If you're running the games on the floor, like you signed up to run, this module 3 times, this module 4 times, or whatever, you're going to have to report to the marshals, and they will tell you what table you're going to be running at, and then they will start sending players to your table. You want to check in no later than 10 minutes before your slot. I always recommend DMs go at least 15 to 20 minutes ahead of time to check in, get situated, get set down at your table. That way, if you're missing anything, you can run back up to the room and grab it. You can ask other DMs, hey, can I borrow a couple extra pencils? I'm missing a few, or something of that nature.
Yep. Yeah. Make sure. Yeah. And the marshals are DMs, so make sure you're making their life as easy as possible too.
Yes.
So yeah. Yes, you might be sitting at the same table 2 slots in a row. Get up and tell them you're still there.
Yep.
You could talk to them ahead of time, say, hey, I'm running this module back to back. Can I have the same table for next slot too? They're going to work with you. They're going to help you out. So just make everything nice and easy, smooth.
The marshals are great. I think one of the things that I appreciate the most about them too is that...
Except for Mike. He's, but that's fine.
Not everybody's perfect, man.
That's right. Not everybody's perfect.
But one of the things I really appreciate about them in particular is keeping you on time.
Yeah.
They'll come around about 30 minutes, I think, before time, and say, hey, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and they'll kind of give you that ticking clock to let you know how much time you've got left, and to go ahead and wrap it up or get to a point where you can go ahead and close everything off.
Another very good point about that. When your players first sit down and you are getting ready to start your game, the very first thing you do, collect tickets.
Collect
all the tickets of all the players, because there is going to be someone from HQ that is going to come around and ask you for your tickets. And don't lose their paper clips.
No. In fact, if you're smart,
bring extras.
You will smuggle some paper clips in, and you will be Mary's best friend if you just give her a paperclip.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely collect your tickets. Even if you're running a DDXP track, collect your tickets, things of that every time.
Yeah. Get all that paperwork and stuff out of the way. Just tuck it to the side. When somebody comes by, you'll see them. Just hold it out. They'll walk by, put it in the box. You're good to go, and you just keep right on running. Now, make sure all your cogs need to be oiled and running.
So a question for you two. I know we were talking about we've changed our digital forms online for our online virtual DD forms surveys. Is that going to be in place for Gen Con, the new discussion?
Yes.
Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Now, the plan is We are doing away with the paper forms completely.
Saving the trees.
We're going to save trees because, Heralds Guild has done their part to deforest large swaths of the countryside with all the paper that we go through. We are going to try and give back and go all digital. So at the tables, they'll have little number stands.
QR
for your
codes
tables.
Yep.
There will be a QR code on the table number. All you got to do is say, hey, everybody, before you walk away, make sure you zap the QR code. Please fill out the form. It's no different than how you do on the online stuff. You just say, hey, Baldwin Games and Heralds Guild, we love our feedback. Please give us more feedback. And all you got to do is grab your phone, click it, boom, boom, boom. You're done. And that's it.
Yeah, I love it.
That's the plan. If we can't, we still use paper if we have to, but we don't want to anymore. The form will change just slightly.
And that's something you also if you want to make sure to charge your tablets and stuff like that in your rooms, but you might want to bring a tablet to have for the end because there might be players that don't have a QR code reader on their devices. So if you want to bring an iPad or a tablet or anything like that, they can use that for the QR code reader and say, hey guys, I've got this. If you just want to, here, I'm going to scan it real quick, and then you can go ahead and fill it out for me. And that way you can help them out as well. And players, I mean, I know it sounds weird, but players, just those small things, players really are appreciative of. Another thing real quick too, if you're scheduled to run a slot and they do not have enough players to play your slot, you are not done. The marshal will come around. They'll have you sit down there. You can go up to the headquarters. They'll see if they need anything. If you can do anything up at HQ to help out. Sometimes they'll need DMs to help run things around the room. You might be one of the people that go around and pick up the tickets for HQ and things of that nature. So if you if there aren't enough players to run your slot, that doesn't mean that you have permission to disappear. You do not leave the floor until you have been released by the marshal from HQ. So when they release you, then you're free to go. A lot of times also, if there aren't enough players for your table, sometimes once you're released, you can go ahead and find a table that's down a few players and go ahead and play a game yourself.
You may be asked to do it too.
Yeah, you may be asked to.
Yeah, and you may be asked to as well.
So make sure, along with your kit for your adventure, make sure you've got a couple characters in there ready to go so you can jump on a table and help some other players have a good time at the con.
Yeah, and also we were talking about things to bring in your backpack or whatever, your everything down to the table. Bring some small snacks, maybe some granola bars, some trail mix, things of that nature, just to keep yourself, keep your blood sugar up, keep yourself concentrating, things of that nature.
Yeah, and there are going to be opportunities at DM support from DM support for they'll have water, Pop-Tarts. They usually have protein bars and stuff like that. They'll have some extra throat lozenges and things like that that'll be available there too. Which actually I think is a good. What's that? Go ahead.
I said, don't rely on that.
Yeah,
needed. Yeah, if it's
needed, that's if you forgot it upstairs, or if you ran out and you really need it, great. But otherwise, yeah, that's one of those things that's a if you need it pull. So let me ask you this too. So some other ones that are options, right? Is if you pick up maybe a battery for charging your phone because you may not be back upstairs in your hotel room for who knows how long. Another one that I usually bring is probably often overlooked is a small first aid kit with things like bandages and if you need Band-Aids, antibiotic ointment, and really more than anything else if you get like a headache or like you have a spare lozenge, like you're out and you're really struggling and you need something to get you through the next hour until you can find more, right? You get some ibuprofen, some Tylenol, stuff like that. They've got stuff at Walmart. They've got like the little white box that's about the size of a deck of cards. That's a little clamshell, and it's already got most of what you need in there, and in single serving sized, individually wrapped packages. That was been a lifesaver.
Because you never know. You never know what can happen.
Something else too is when we check in, you're going to get a T-shirt, which represents like the red shirts, the blue shirts, things of that nature. Again, which are based on the basic D&D boxes, not the Star Trek. But you're expected to wear that shirt while you're on duty. If you are not working, you do not wear that shirt. When you're wearing that shirt, you're representing Baldwin Games, you're representing the Heralds Guild, and to an extent, as we've discussed before, you're representing Wizards of the Coast, and you are to be as professional as possible when you're wearing that shirt. If you're not working, do not wear the shirt. Make sure to take that off, put it in your room, but you must be wearing the shirt all the time while you're on duty down on the floor.
Yep.
So let me ask you this, fellas. There's a lot of business items that we have to cover. Make sure you bring this, make sure you do that. Lots of ruly type stuff, and but when do we DMs get to have fun away from the tables?
That would be the slot 13 events. Yeah, and
events
they have
plural.
Events plural.
Oh my goodness!
Usually on the Thursday night, I believe. The Thursday or the Friday is the cigar night at Nikki Blaine's. That's Les's night. Nice place to go if you like cigars or bourbons. I think martinis as well. They do have a great smoke eater there, so the smoke it's not super smoky. You can go in and have a nice cigar. They'll help you pick out, if you're new to that kind of thing, a nice bourbon or whatever. Just kind of chill. And then the big one is the Saturday night, because like for our virtual weekends, we do the toast and Low Millers. Well, when you go to Gen Con, you can go to the real Low Millers, and that's where we have our actual toast with everybody there, hoisting an actual glass, clinking cups, all that good stuff.
Yeah, there's usually like a buffet, and I think it's like $15 for the buffet. They'll have it, and the place is closed off for just us.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. So, somebody did mention in the chat, staying on time is critical. So don't just rely on the marshals to come by and tell you when you got 10 minutes or 15 minutes left to go. Make sure that you're keeping an eye on your clock yourself, so that way that you know, and you can keep things rolling. So that if you happen to miss their reminder, you're not going to be, too far in the weeds where you might make people late for their next event. So.
And that's That's a really important thing that Troy mentioned earlier. Yes, we did used to have 4-hour slots back to back to back. We run 4 of them. Now we have an hour in between. That still doesn't give you an excuse to run over. Still plan to run your event, your 4-hour slot in 3.5 hours, because of the fact that these players may not be playing D&D the next time. They may be, as soon as that 4 hours is up, they'd like to get out early so they can go to their next game that might be over in Lucas Oil Field, all the way across the other side of the convention center. So make sure to have your games ready and ran in 3.5 hours. That way you can start cleaning up about a half hour before the event is over.
Yeah. And kind of to that point, write down your introduction that you're going to do whenever a new batch of players comes and sits down. Write it down, practice it a little bit. Just, make it brief. Hi, I'm Troy. I'm going to be your DM, and I've been doing this for a while. I like to have fun. Maybe write it out. I've seen some DMs kind of have a little thing that they write out, and as a table tent on their table, that just tells them a little bit about them, about what kind of games they run. Whether it's, they like PG, PG-13, whatever. If they're theater of the mind, if you have maps and terrain and minis out, people out, you've got maps and minis. But that way just rolls off your tongue. It's the same every time. You don't have to worry about fumbling over your own tongue, trying to figure out what you're going to tell people.
Also, remember safety tools. You may not have used them before the pandemic, and we started using them, requiring them to be used for the virtual D&D weekends. So make sure that you have something that you can use for your live tables. That will include safety tools. Keep in mind that as well. And speaking of that too, if there is, as Les always talked about, that player that table of players. If you have unruly players or anything of that nature, do not be the bad guy. Go up to HQ. Tell HQ, hey, this player is being disruptive. Explain the situation and let them go be the bad guy. That's what they're there for. You do not be the bad guy as the DM. Again, you be as professional as possible and just make sure that the other players are having fun. If there is a player like that or a table like that, make sure to definitely let HQ know and they will take care of it. It's not your job to take care of that.
Yeah. And not to scare anybody, that hasn't happened to me yet. I have not had that player or that table. So, but there's those people out there. You just never know. So yeah, don't need to be the bad guy.
We've got a question in chat that I think is a good one. Badfish is asking about whether DMs are going to need their DCI numbers anymore or not, and that answer is no.
Nope.
It is a good idea for you to bring your Heralds Guild number and have that memorized, honestly. But you do not need a DCI number for any Dungeons and Dragons organized play ever again.
Right. Yep. Some of them still use it just because it's
Old
habit.
School. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't need it for anything.
Correct.
One other little game-related tip I have for you is inspiration. Players love inspiration. And a lot of DMs have issues remembering to give out inspiration. So I'm going to give you a nugget. Candy. I bring 2 big bags of Starburst with me, and that is my inspiration. But I'm also an evil DM. So I tell them that if they eat it, they've used it. So it just makes like a little fun kind of a thing. If they go through the whole session and they don't use their inspiration, they can take a little piece of candy with them on their way. If they want to use it, I'm going to use my inspiration. They pop it in their mouth, they chew it up. Cool. Or they can give it to somebody else to eat if they don't like the candy or whatever. But it's a joy. It's an absolute joy to see a grown man spit out a half-eaten Starburst into the palm of his hand because he forgot and absent-mindedly almost ate his inspiration.
Is it still good? Is it still good?
Is it still good? but having that bag of candy sitting on my table is a reminder to me to be aware to hand out inspiration, and it's fun, and it's candy. And also bring more. Always bring more. So is there anything else as far as game prep stuff that they need to be aware of for Gen Con? Or
from a like, let me ask you this: you're not at the convention yet. What is the prep prior to? Right, all of us have our own rituals about making sure that our minis are put together, all of our terrain, our maps, and things like that. What about the modules? Do we want to go over the adventures? Is there any tips that you two want to go over with anybody out there about what prep that you go through? Like for me, I am a very very kinesthetic learner and memorizing things and remembering things. So for me, I have to go. I'll print it off, and then I'll take highlighters of different colors: yellow, green, red. And I will highlight, and I will write things in the notes in the edges in blue, or in red, or in purple, things that are brighter colors, and keep things, but I'll do it like, I'll categorize things, right? The things that are bad that are going to happen to the players, I highlight in red. Things that are social encounters in yellow, things like that, right? So I'll kind of like categorize it out ahead of time, so that whenever I'm going through it, and I have it sitting there at the table with me, I already know where I'm at in it. When I've got it unfolded, I kind of know where to look for the juiciest bits of information that I need that are specific to that session. And honestly, more than anything else, it just helps me absorb it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of prep really should be the same for whatever event you're running.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you're at Gen Con, but it's the actual running of the game is no different than what you've done at the virtual weekend or for your home group or whatever. So however you prep your modules. Just, I encourage you, since you're not going to be sitting in the comfort of your own home running from your computer, just make that checklist, like a packing checklist, going on vacation. Do I have all the minis that I need? Have I read the module twice, or however many times that you need to read it? Do I have enough highlighters to highlight everything, or the right colored pens to make my notes, or my sticky tabs, or whatever it might be? So, it's just make sure you go through your normal prep. And it's no different. It's the big dance, yes, but you do what you've done to get yourself to the big dance.
Just keep doing it, yeah.
And just keep doing it. It's like sports, you just keep doing what you're doing, and it's going to carry you through.
Yeah, for my preparation, for at least for running the games and all of that, I have a binder that if I'm running historic, well, it's going to be more important now. But if I'm like this Gen Con, I'll be running historic, so I'm going to be running the Moon 19 to 20 track. So I'm going to have the historic player's guide. I'm going to have all of that information. I also, very similar to what you do, but I don't necessarily outline. I actually have plastic sleeves that I have all my pages in. That way I can use dry erase and jot notes down there. And I also go through and as I'm reading the module, I actually kind of make a one-page summary outline for myself. That's how I kind of prep.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, a lot of people do things a little bit different, but I always prep with just a one-page outline. That way, as I'm going through the module, reading the text box or paraphrasing the text box, getting minis ready to go. When you sit down at the table, actually, as Troy had mentioned, not only knowing where your minis are, but when you get to the table, again, if you show up early enough, you get your table, you can, set out what miniatures you need. If you use a screen, if you don't use a screen, you have a place where you can set everything out ready to go for your event.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you're going to be nervous because, it's the big thing. So yeah, just take a deep breath and remember you're running games and you're having fun. But yeah, you want to make sure all your ducks are in a row, because there's going to be times that you're going to get down to the event and be like, oh, I forgot the one cool thing that I needed. So yeah, just make sure you're keeping track.
That's okay. That's what the dealer's hall is for. You forgot something at home? No worries. They've got it.
Yep.
More than enough.
I think Dave is saying make sure you bring your DCI number just to prove how old school you are.
Yeah.
RPGA numbers for life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg wants us to make sure that everybody understands. We're going to reiterate it again, and they're going to tell us again once we get there. Slot 13 has our back. If you need anything, sometimes they've got minis, they've got maps, dry erase, pencils, pens, things like that. HQ may even have an extra copy of the adventure if you absolutely have to have it. Don't count on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you absolutely need it, especially if the one thing that no DM wants to happen has happened, and that's you get picked to run a module cold. They'll give you the copy of the module. Mm-hmm. You'll have a little bit of time to go over it. It'll be better that if it does happen, because you've got that hour in between.
Yeah, in between now. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me park on that for a second, because I've run at least 4 times completely cold, and I had a blast. I was absolutely terrified, but had a blast, and it does work out. And I think it's okay for you to let the players know, say, hey,
oh yeah, definitely.
I'm running this cold, but I'm really excited about it. It's gonna fake it until you make it. Give them the heads up. Like, I hope I'm getting this right, but I'm ready to have a blast with everybody, and then just go right, and then spot check. And if you need sometime, like I think the first time I ran it cold was actually at Origins, and it was here's the adventure from Les 10 minutes before game time, and so it was like I even told the players, like, look, can you give me like 15 minutes to look through this thing? Just scan it, and we'll make it work, right? And so their players can be incredibly forgiving and gracious. They're just there to have a good time. So if that's what you're trying to give them, just give them your best, and it'll be great.
Yeah,
you'll be great.
And
Yeah,
there is two.
the big scare is when they ask you on the cold to admin an epic. Huh.
Come on, Mitch.
Here's a season 9 epic 2. We need an admin. What? Okay.
Yep, go for it. But and to that point, John, some would argue, don't tell them you're doing it cold. It just could be kind of however you're comfortable. Because if you can read through that module real quick and kind of fumble your way through and give them a fun time regardless. This is why we have the DMs are empowered rule.
Yeah.
Because if you're plowing through this sucker and you haven't had a chance to read and prep, you're not going to hit all the beats. You're not going to do all the monsters justice, or you're not really sure where you can tweak or where you should tweak. So, just strap in, hold on, and give those players the best ride you can. If all you're going by is that little synopsis in the front, well, it's all about improv, baby.
That's what the adventure primer is for, right there at the beginning. To let you know
read that first page.
Story. Yeah.
Read that first page and just give them hell
Mm-hmm.
and have fun. And the more fun you have, your players will feed off of it. That's the one thing that I think that has carried me through every rough adventure that I have ever ran, ever. If I'm having a good time, and I'm trying to make sure they're having a good time, we're all going to have a good time together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And speaking of that too, do not tell the players that you do not like the adventure. Do
You love
not
it.
say anything like that. Even if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to like every adventure.
Yeah.
Just do not tell the players that. Never say anything like that. If you don't understand necessarily some certain parts about adventures, speak with the other DMs. It's a great community. Everybody is, all the DMs are willing to help one another. Look for a blue shirt, look for a green shirt, ask them, say, hey, do you have a moment to maybe speak to me about this? Almost every single time somebody's going to turn around and say, yeah, sure, no problem. Or if they don't have time at the moment, they'll find somebody that can.
Yep. That's what we're there for.
Yeah.
Yeah, the community is really great. And to that point, I should say, make friends while you're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that
was on my list.
Right? That's one of the most important things. Have a good time, run great games, entertain the players, but there are some phenomenal people. I mean, look, I got Troy and I got Mitch here. And I've got like a slew of other amazing people that run these games that I've become friends with, close friends. And it's awesome. It's just part of the community. All it is a springboard into being exposed to other really great, like-minded people. So it's, even for my introverts out there, it's tough sometimes to put yourself out there, but maybe find a small group and just kind of hang out and listen for a little bit. And if there's something really cool that you can interject into it, then kind of find your way into the conversation. And I can't imagine any Baldman DM that's going to straight arm you if you come towards the table or you come to the table of chairs or things like that. So find your peers and let those peers become your friends. That's the best part of this whole thing. That's why I've stayed.
Yeah, make friends, and not just with the DMs. There are players that I still talk to all the time that I've met years ago from Gen Con or Winter Fantasy or wherever. And when we say that there's 40, 50,000 of your closest friends playing games in indie, it's not a joke. That's what they're there for. I mean, they're all there to have a good time. That's what you're there for, to have a good time. Show people a good time. So yeah, make friends and make sure you make time for yourself. I know there's some people, perhaps even on this panel, that may try to run every stinking slot the entire 4 days.
Not this time.
We won't name names.
Oh, I've done the same thing.
Yeah. So have I. But I mean, if that's how you have a good time, go for it. If you're that crazy and that's what you want to do, you go for it. But take a slot and walk the dealer's hall or go through the art exhibit or whatever it might be. Make sure that you enjoy the convention yourself.
Avoid the vendor's hall on Sundays. It's a madhouse. It's family day. It's just huge. So as soon as you can get in there as Thursday, I mean, you'll get some good deals on Sundays. I'm not gonna lie about that. A lot of vendors don't want to take all of their stuff home, but try to get through the hall. If you have an hour in between slot, walk over there. There's a concession stands throughout the convention center where you can get your food, things of that nature. So definitely check it out. Definitely, as he said, take some time for yourself and take in the convention, because there's a reason why they call it the 4 best days in gaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a sight to behold.
Well, look, we've got about 10 minutes left here, fellows. So chat. This is the Q&A portion. If you have any questions, concerns, or anything like that you'd like to get off your chest, any questions you'd like to ask of us, now's the time. So kind of give me the wind up of the pitch and start putting those in now. And as we get them, then we'll start answering them.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be just about Gen Con or convention play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Floor is open.
We just finished a VDDW weekend, right? A virtual weekend. So if you've got virtual weekend questions or questions about the Ravenloft campaign, Mist Hunters that you want to ask, non-spoiler territory, of course. But if you want to ask stuff about that too, this is the place. This is the time. All right, so the first one I've got is, what are some prime snacks to bring when you're running back-to-back sessions and don't have time for lunch? Protein. Nuts and jerky.
Trail mix, Slim Jims, and granola bars.
Absolutely.
Steak.
If only.
Well, that's what Dave's doing when we're running the games. Heading down to Ruth Chris.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So, what did you think about?
I think protein, trail mix, stuff like that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and seriously, stay hydrated. I cannot. I'll go back to my old Boy Scout days. Drink or you will die. Seriously.
Yeah. And don't rely on soda. If you just drink nothing but soda, make sure to, like I said, there's water all throughout the hall. JW Marriott staff comes around and keeps ice cold water in the room all the time. And another thing too, clean up after yourself. Definitely keep the area clean. Use the trash cans. They're everywhere in the room. Use them. And also try to help out. If you see some stuff on the floor, you see something like that, just go ahead and pick it up real quick and toss it and throw it away.
Yeah. Dave recommends, he wants to specify not just steak, but steak in the form of jerky. Right?
Jerky.
Only the finest of smoked meats, of course. All right, so the next question that we have is from Daniel, and that is, what did you think about making characters during an epic slot? Well, I think we can even expand that a little bit more and say, what do you think about making characters within the first hour of your session, of almost every single session that you run for Mist Hunters? Troy, I know that you played, but
I ran all 5 slots of the epic. It was interesting. I actually knew that it was going to be guidance ahead of time because they had said multiple times it was going to be guidance. It wasn't something that the players were going to have to abide by. It was something that the players could use as flavor. So it wasn't really difficult for my tables as much. I did have a couple players that really didn't interact with me very much on the virtual D&D the players server, so they came in a little cold, but most of the players came in. I told them to come in with the concept. A couple players already came in with their characters created. I just made sure that they adjusted their stat blocks to the 4 that were allowed for Ravenloft Mist Hunters. I know some people are going to be a little iffy about it or dislike it. What I always say is just roll with it. It's Adventurers League. We may not understand why it is. Don't ever blame the AL admins. It's not their fault. They're getting everything from WotC. Just roll with it and have fun. There's going to be people who are going to complain about it. There's going to be players that are going to complain about it. The same thing I tell them all the time is like, well, hey, it's League, and it's going to change. It's something changes as part of life, and it's going to change too. So
hey, that advice goes double. That advice goes double and triple for our Baldwin DMs out there. We've already said don't badmouth the adventures. Don't badmouth players. Don't badmouth the DMs, the marshals. Don't badmouth the ALs, WotC, nothing. You're there to be professional, stay upbeat, energetic, positive, because they're gonna you're gonna get into an echo chamber and all you're going to do is reverberate negativity between yourself and everybody else, and it's just going to bring everybody else down. But a good, positive attitude will kind of pull them out of the muck, and it'll make it easier for them to have a good time at the table with the adventure.
Yeah, exactly. I played this weekend. I didn't run anything this weekend. So as far as making the character for the epic, I thought it was a really cool idea. I think I personally would have liked to have seen it done in a different order, just because if we're drawing cards to give us inspiration on things, I don't want to pick my stats first. Because if I pick my stats and the character concept I end up with from drawing the cards, it's like, oh, I should, and yeah, I can go back and change it, but if you do it in the right order, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, DM empowerment. You could. I didn't have. I had the players pick their.
Yeah.
Or obviously they picked their race and their gender and or identity. I said identity as well. Threw that in there, and then have them pick their background, then their class, and then do their stats.
Awesome. All right, so we got another one from Bird Girl. Here's one question for the professors. What are you most looking forward to in AL? Exploration of Ravenloft in RMH, Season 11 in the Feywild, or new DRW adventures? That's a good one.
Moonshay's Master Campaign. That's what I'm ready for.
I was gonna say, you forgot one there. You forgot one.
Yep.
Yes, that's what I'm looking forward to, is the Moonshay Masters campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Tony
I'm really curious.
working on that, and it's going to be awesome to see. Yeah.
Really curious to see where they're going to go in the Moonshays after dealing with the slaying and all the other fun stuff happening over there.
But actually, season 11 is going to be really cool with the D&D celebration in September. It's going to be, I think, the week after Gen Con, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Wedged between Gen Con and Origins.
Yeah.
It's a doozy.
It's a doozy of a...
Yeah, mine's going to be a really Magoo answer. All of it, honestly. I can't wait to see how all of it unfolds. Look, my take on the Mist Hunters character generation during each of the slots, it's tough, right? But I get what they're trying to do. I mean, you have to shake things up. Otherwise, it gets really bland, and it's the same thing every single season. So they're trying to do things that are different, do some experimentation. I respect that. And
that's the other thing, too, that players need to understand is the Moonshay, Moonshay. We were just talking about the Moonshays. Ravenloft Mist Hunters is a completely different, pardon the pun, monster than any of the other campaigns are. It's it's a limited campaign, very much like the Eberron campaigns. You're not going to be able to take your characters out of the Mist Hunters campaign. It is a different system. If you want to play it, you're going to have to understand that as a player, and running it as a DM, you're going to have to understand that some players are going to have a little bit of frustration about it, because it's still AL rules, but it's not the leveling, the gold, the downtime and stuff like that is not there. That's not part of Mist Hunters, and the players might get frustrated about it. But if you can just kind of explain to them, say, hey, this is not like season 10 or seasonal play. This is not like Masters. This is not like historic. Think of Eberron as different than the rest of it. So Mist Hunters is its own monster, as I said. So it is different, and people just, they're going to like it or they're not going to like it. So
yeah, it's like playing, if you're going to play Mist Hunters and be mad because it's not like season 10, that's like being mad that you're playing Star Wars and it's not like D&D.
Yeah.
It's different.
I think that's the thing that I like about what's coming up next in AL is I think we're going to see some shakeup. We're going to see some shakeup with the Feywild being introduced with the Witchlight season 11. It's going to be unlike, I would assume it's going to be unlike anything else that's been out there thus far. And then so things are going to shift and they're going to twist and they're going to be different as a result of it. So I think we just got to brace ourselves for some change. And we've seen a lot of change over the last several years with the way that AL operates, the way that the rules are utilized, and some of the kind of like the ratcheting down and restrictions on certain things and freeing up others. So look, it's a big experiment to see how things go, and we're all a part of it. So we're on the cutting edge. This is the cutting edge of D&D, because there's just so much experimentation that goes on here. Who knows what it's going to translate into back at WotC whenever they're putting these books together. So we're all a part of that together.
Even if it's not, clicking all of your boxes as far as a D&D game goes, it's still D&D.
Yeah, it's still D&D.
It's better than most anything else you're going to be doing. And oh, there he is.
Oops.
Whoops.
What happened? Uh-oh. We got
But yeah.
gremlins in the system. Gremlins in the system.
I don't see any more questions. Is there?
A quick
covered everybody?
reminder. I was going to say a quick reminder for the DMs that we are going to be moving. We already have moved it, but it's going to be disappearing from the virtual D&D weekend DM server. Our mentoring chat and mentoring stuff has already been migrated over to the Heralds Guild DM server. So keep that in mind. If you happen to see it disappear from the virtual D&D weekends DM server, it is still on the Heralds Guild DM server. So in case you see it disappear, that's where it's going.
Yeah, you can't get rid of us that easy. Yeah, it's. I like that. Sam Surratt. Yeah, people comparing Misthunters to season 10.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a paradigm shift.
It's just something different.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, there's so much other content out there that you can play. If you really absolutely hate it for whatever reason, it just sticks in your craw, then play an older season or maybe try a new system.
Well, that's the great thing about Baldwin Games, presenting content. There's so much content. You don't have to feel like you're stuck in one spot. There are so many options that you've got to choose from. You'll find your place, find that niche that you like.
I think it also has to do with something like we were talking about a little bit in the pre-show before we gotten into speaking about Gen Con, was that the Misthunters epic was not like an epic, was not like a regular epic. And a lot of players were most likely, and probably DMs before they got the module, were probably expecting a lot of combat. Because most epics are combat oriented. The difference also is that most of the epics for the other seasons and different stuff have a module that epic's based off of, whereas Misthunters just has a book, and the only adventure in that is the House of Lament, and all the rest of it is information. So the Grand Masquerade is obviously setting up the storyline for what the Misthunter storyline is going to be. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, any parting thoughts while we close up shop for office hours for the time being? Anything you want to impart to anybody before we go?
Mitch?
Play games, play games, play games.
Yep. Yes, don't just run games, right?
Play
As a DM,
games.
play games. Good,
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
thank you all for being here. Those of you watching, video on demand or on YouTube later, thanks for checking us out. And if you have any questions about anything, hit us up on the Heralds Guild Discord channels. You can find us there. The BMG.
I think we got a BMG Twitch next Sunday, I believe.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
We got Baldwin HQ's coming up next Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep, Baldwin HQ's coming up next Sunday.
Yep. So stay tuned.
But yeah, if you're gonna make it down at Gen Con, make sure you stop by and say hey. If I haven't met you yet, if we haven't met you yet, you're gonna be able to find us because
yeah, we're going to be out on the floor, actively ready to mentor. If you have questions, we can come, even maybe sit in and watch some of your game if you want us to do that. I know that at Gen Con we actually have some extra slots that we're going to be able to do that this time around. Instead of us having to run the games, we're actually going to be able to actively walk around and help DMs out. So if you have questions, we'll be there in Griffin Hall, ready to help.
That's right. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just come up and hang out and tell us about something crazy that happened at your table too.
Absolutely. Whether it's Gen Con or it's at any event.
If
you see us and we're not running games at that exact moment, there's nothing wrong with you coming up, introducing yourself, saying hi, and letting us know who you are. Until then, I ask you to be kind to one another, be good, play awesome games, and as always, stay safe, everybody.
That's right.
Take care.
Have a great game, everybody.